OK?
Ok.
Marche arrière.
Marche arrière. Et là, le glaçon aussi.
Ah bah non, il s'en fout du fond.
C'est ce qu'il va me dire.
Bon bah à l'année prochaine.
Ciao. Gue di soli lah, Be.
Oh, attention, Mike.
Oh putain, oh putain. Merde, vite, vite, vite. Retourne dedans. Retourne dedans.
C'est bon.
Dedans.
Un bout.
Vite, vite, vite. Allez, les enfants dedans. Les enfants.
Oh shit!
Welcome to Brothers and Booze. How you doing? Did you have a slip there?
Yeah, I was not expecting. I was like, why are they just leaving them there? And that front of the boat looked like it was put together by me and my kids.
right. The first thing that jumped off at me, welcome to Brothers and Booze. Doug was completely entertained by a first clip here. But Doug, the thing that really jumped off at me really mostly was the science in it. Like once you saw it tip over, you're like, duh. Once you get on an iceberg and you actually, there's so much science keeping that iceberg up.
Yeah.
Once those guys put their weight on it, it clearly made the imbalance that it. Yeah, I haven't heard anything. I'm pretty sure those guys got out. I didn't see the follow up.
My worry would be that they got in the water, and that water is Arctic water. Very good. Right. That water fast.
Right, and then the waves at the iceberg. Sometimes these clips just go off way too quick, and we need I need 30 more seconds on that one.
Yeah, it's like we're analyzing it like it's a Zapruder film or something like that.
Right. And I don't know. Again, the science really jumped off at me afterwards. It was like, oh wow, okay,
yeah, that makes sense. Yeah,
right. It's a duh thing, but I probably might have. Well, I wouldn't have tried that, but I did try today. Wheelhouse Kolsch from Torch and Crown Brewing in New York City. From our friend Ding Official. You said you had this one?
I did. But
crisp. It's just fantastic.
Yeah, I thought it was spot on for the style. Kolsch's are okay. They're not like my go-to, but I mean, it was definitely right on point with what the style of it is. So,
I don't like I like the fight seasonality of beer sometimes. And this is definitely a spring, wonderful, fantastic, light, snappy too. A little bit of catch at the end. I'm getting lemon.
Yeah, I recall a little bit of that. Yeah.
Yeah, not too much so, but I'm not getting that what is it, that beery taste, or that beer tastes like beer, or beer. Yeah,
I know what you mean. I can't describe it either.
So what do you got?
All right. Well, in keeping with Pride Month, ta-da!
Yay!
So I picked this up from Sloop Brewing out of upstate New York, Pixie Dust Northeast IPA, Special Pride Edition. Part of the reason is that a portion of the proceeds will go to the New York City Pride. So while I'm not a giant IPA fan, I am a fan of supporting things I believe in. So,
yay!
Holy shit. That one's bubbled up a little faster than I was expecting.
So while you pour that healthy head there.
Yeah.
What are you smelling on the nose there?
Well, it's got the kind of, you get the nice IPA, you get the kind of that juicy smell off of it. And it's definitely, I don't know, I think that's pretty close to the color you'd want out of it.
Sure.
Oh man, that's nice and crisp. This is I'm not sure how you feel about Northeast IPAs. I think in general you're like, they're okay, but I think you really dig this one. Got it's got all the juiciness up front, a little hop aftertaste, but not like overly powering. So really good sipper for summer style, very crushable. So cheers, man.
Nice. Wonderful. So yeah, I'm excited about man, I get excited about every one of our guests. They always bring something different to the table for sure. Always knowledge that we're clueless about. I mean, this is just another instance here. Talking to a real beer historian. I mean, if I had a dream job, maybe that would be it. Not even dream job, but like, I don't know. I just history and beer, obviously beer I love, but history. Are you a history person?
Not in general, but like there's certain facets of it that I like political history stuff. I'm a junkie for it.
Oh, okay. Okay. So your political history, you like that shit?
I like that sort of stuff. I mean, I'm not going to get too far into the weeds with some of the stuff, but as far as history is just the history with the thing is now it's learning like all the stuff I didn't learn in school. That's where I'm starting to delve into because that shit I just learned.
That's cool. Well, our guest, we're going to bring him on right now, John Harry. He's going to tell us a whole bunch of stuff we don't know if we ask the right questions, of course. So yeah, what's up, John? How you doing?
Hey guys, that video of that iceberg is like a metaphor for me at the bar. Like, I think I'm doing okay, and then it's like you're done.
Right. And it just tips over on you, and you get past the point of no return. You were you've been hi John, how you doing? Welcome to our stream here. Let's see, I don't even know where to start with you, man. I met you because
what's in the glass? Oh, so this is so this is I just need something crisp, so it's Fresh Coast from Three Sheeps.
Oh yeah.
I like that beer a lot.
Yes.
And that was I don't know. I have like, you ever had the problem where you have just like too much beer in your fridge and you're like, I don't know. Like I have like just I like a variety, but I'm like kind of at a point where I've obviously, like as you can see behind, I collect things, and I've collected a lot of beer right now, and so I just got to start chipping away at the pile before I get too much more. So,
and you're a home brewer too, right?
Yeah. So I got a couple of home brews on tap too they get neglected then, right? So, but I haven't had time to brew lately, so that's okay that they're sitting. So,
right. So, Doug, what I was saying before I asked the right question was what was in your glass. The second is where do you start with a historian? Like, where do you begin the story? You know what I'm saying? Like, it's like you started at the beginning, the end. Full disclosure, John Harry was on the first Badger Beer Hour, which is a project with me and Chris Johnson, the Beer Baron, and Landon Cherney. And he taught us about the first Black-owned brewery in Wisconsin, and we're all like, wow, it was this great history and all that. And so ever since then, I've known John, and I've kept up a conversation and friendship with him since then. But I've never really got to ask you about, like, you were talking about history and stuff that you've done research on. We've never really got to talk about you. So where does that beer historian come from? Is it always something you wanted to do? Where did you catch that?
Yeah, so I was a radio DJ for 10 years, and so I went to school, got a communication degree from UW Stevens Point, and floated around mostly the upper Midwest for 10 years, and kind of reached a place where I was like, yeah, I'm not doing this anymore. My joke was always I wanted to find a career that paid worse, and so I got into history. But that's not exactly true, though. But no, it's fun to do something you're passionate about, but like kind of when you guys were talking, like Doug's like, I'm not into history, but I am into this kind of history. It's like there's a lot out there, right? And so, and like the history of the world is deep. And so when I decided to go back to school, I was actually coincidentally living back in Stevens Point. I went to their history department and said, how do I do this? What do I need to do? And they're like, well, what kind of history do you want to study? I'm like, well, American history. They're like, American history is big, narrow it down. And so I collect this beer antique stuff. And so I'm like, well, I like beer history. And they're like, that's a great idea. So I start going into it, looking at different, there are several different archival collections throughout the state. And I started looking at this one called Oshkosh Brewing Company. And then come to find out there's a brewery across the street called People's Brewing Company that ended up later being the first Black-owned brewery in the state. So, that's kind of like how that evolved. But it's been fun.
Excellent. So it's something that you grew into. It wasn't really like a it wasn't really like a vision type thing as when you're a kid.
No, well, so the thing is like when the way our education system is set up is it doesn't teach people to dream, because it says like you have to assign a vocation to what you get a degree in. And don't get me wrong, like I think tech schools are great, and like if that's your deal, go for it. But when I was in school as an undergrad, it was like I love history. I've always loved history. My grandpa was big into history, and so I always liked that. And it was usually like World War II history or something like that. But at that point, I had like a connection where like I love learning about the past and like connecting those dots. And I was told like the only job as like an 18-year-old when you're like trying to figure out your major is like, well, you want to teach or write. And at that point, I didn't want to do either of those things, right? Like I wanted to be a rock star guitar player, so I don't know, something stupid, right? And it was one of those things where it's like, why are you're steering me into this box? And so I ended up being a radio DJ, and I ended up being pretty good at it, but it wasn't like what fulfilled me. And so I ended up getting there the back way. And I can tell you that, if you do become an expert in something, you will find a way to make a living doing it. The connections just kind of open up, and it just so happens that what I research is something that's really in vogue right now, and I will take advantage of that as long as I can to, because I think these stories need to be told. And if I can do that, I'm honored to be able to have that privilege. So.
Excellent.
Yeah.
But,
so that's kind of like you're just they're going into like the educational system, and then like how we kind of like think, all right, you're 18 now, figure out what you want to do for the rest of your life.
yeah.
And it's so like, I mean, it sounds like you were in the same boat as I was 18. I didn't know what the hell I didn't even know what the hell I was doing day to day, much less what the hell I want to do for the rest of my life. And I think it's cool that you kind of took a circuitous route, but you found it later. I mean, I think sometimes we need to think about that not everybody's ready to just be a doctor or a lawyer right off the bat,
I mean, like the whole thing about going to grad school is it's like a major commitment, even though, so I just got my master's and the PhD plan, like it's kind of on hold at the moment, or maybe even won't even happen. Because I'm kind of like reevaluating, like, what do I need to do to like be fulfilled in my career? Do I really need to like take that? Cause you get a huge opportunity cost of going back to school. Right. And so it's a huge commitment that, especially like getting a graduate degree when I was 22, I was not mature enough to do this. You know what I mean? Like it's, that's an expensive way to find your life, like not only are you not going to make money, but you're going to spend money and, stuff like that. So I don't know. I think that part of it has to do with like the way we fund education, because a lot of times it's like, if a parent is paying for a kid's education, they're like, well, you have to have a product after this. And as at UWM, where I just graduated from, I had a conversation with I was a teaching assistant. I had a conversation. I'm like, listen, the thing you get with a college degree is you can do anything. Like you literally have the tools to do what you want now because you can. The biggest thing is that your first years out of college are going to suck no matter what the hell you do. Right? Because you're 22 years old. You have like no actual life skills. You have this education and that's great. But like I worked at Lowe's, you know what I mean? And like, and it was, and I learned stuff there too. And it wasn't fun, but like, they pay fine and it was, it was a gig. So, and then I kind of worked into my radio career, like in part-timed a lot in a lot of places. But like, I think there's this like assumption, especially from like, I think it comes from like parents, because they're the ones like spending the money in a lot of these cases, or the students, because they're taking out just a boatload of loans.
Right.
And so like you have two like forces where like, well, I need results now. And I'm like, you don't have any, you got to get experience and you got to like learn how the world works and with the profession you want to go in. And that takes time. And so like, when going back to school, you kind of, I don't know, like I had more clarity kind of getting back into it. So I'm lucky that way.
Yeah.
So this is the kind of like fun drinking conversation that you're hoping for, right? So.
Yeah, that could get me into a whole capitalism conversation that I don't want to delve into right now. Yeah,
don't want to go down that hole. So
I'll be on a rant for a half hour, so let's not do that.
So John is I would call John, from knowing or at least being on his Facebook page, an outdoorsman. And so you were out this week camping. How was that?
That was awesome. We were out at Ottawa Lake, which is in like the like Catamaran system of parks, kind of like near Oconomowoc. And that's like 40 minutes. I'm in Milwaukee, so it's like 40 minutes from here. And it's just like, it was just nice to get away for a little bit. So yeah, we bought a pop-up camper this year. So we are like now, you know, I don't know, we've achieved like white middle class something, but you know.
I was going to ask if you were doing like the actual like tent camping experience or.
It's that. So we did that last summer. I hadn't been camping since I was like a Boy Scout. My wife hadn't been camping since like she had like gone out with her family as like a kid and to being a teenager. And then the pandemic happened, and like we kind of were like, what can we do? Because we used to travel a lot. And so we're like, well, we can still do this. And I didn't know I liked the outdoors. You know what I mean? Like, it's like, yeah, I like to go kayaking or whatever, but like, it's just that you get away. And so it's nice.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I'm sorry, Doug.
No, I was going to say there's something like there's something kind of really weirdly connecting, and it sounds really simplistic that when you're out in nature and it's like, okay, well, I'm not in the middle of this little rat race now. I'm just I'm here. When this is
right.
Yeah, that disconnection, I think, is something that weirdly, I think the pandemic had people realizing that, oh yeah, that's like kind of important.
Totally.
Yes, Doug. I was going to say.
Yeah, it's like, it's funny. I mean, we're at campgrounds. We're not like, and I'm actually this summer going to backpack up in the Porcupine Mountains in the UP with a friend. So that, because I was like, no, I need to like, I want to try this to see if I like it. But yeah, it's just nice to be out and like, there's something to like take you away from like the stress of every day, you know? So it's nice.
I think that's absolutely, Doug, you're right. It's a positive from the pandemic that people are finding outside more. And that leads me to a wonderful thing, which is I just, right before we streamed here, I just got a notice I just saw something where I think it was on Twitter. Somebody posted 250 places to eat outside in Madison, Wisconsin this summer. And that just made me think about how the pandemic is literally forcing people outside now. And I think overall it's a good thing. And I think I don't know, I hope it kind of lasts. What do you think about this, John? Because you're in Milwaukee, which is beer city, man. It's beer city in Wisconsin. Love Madison, but Milwaukee is it's just another level, in my opinion. Now it used to Madison, in my opinion, when craft beer started, Madison used to kind of hang with Milwaukee, but now Milwaukee is. We'll see what happens after the pandemic and how many breweries survive and all that.
Yeah,
but y'all got really, really nice spaces, whether it be Milwaukee Brewing, whether it be Third Space, and I don't even know what the hell's happening on it, like other classic places like Lakefront, and so yeah. What are you seeing out there? What are you feeling?
I mean, I like the whole outside thing. It's, I've traveled a lot, and I think it's always been one of those things. Like, I still don't understand it. Like, I hope the outside thing doesn't go away, because in my travel, especially like I've been to like Ireland in March, and people like still sit outside, and it's like rainy and 40, and it's just like, yeah, this is just what we do, And I never understood that, like, why we like become such shelter animals so quickly, where we have to be inside and like to be comfortable. I don't get that. It's like, put a coat on, especially like in like our fall weather in Milwaukee is like some of the most beautiful weather in the world. So
that lake there,
it's nice. But yeah, so like around town, like, I mean, and I've yet to actually do this because it's weird. Like, I've been so busy, like through getting my grad degree. Like there's a beer garden called Estabrook Beer Garden up on the east side. That's like a German style beer garden. Like they transported Munich over here, and I have yet to do that. And I've heard that's a blast. There's a dog park over there, and my hope is you can bring the beer into the dog park. I don't know if that's true though, but that would be pretty sweet. But yeah, so like, like there's that. And then as far as like breweries, like every place, like it has kind of like put parklets out, and I'm totally in favor of that, especially like on these nice days. And now it's like 90 and I'm like, it's too hot. But like, yeah, it's like funny though. Cause like, we'll be like, oh, it's too hot. But I spent 2 summers ago in DC, and like people still sit outside there, and that's the hottest, swampiest weather in the world. So, I hope it sticks around. So like Third Space, their outdoor space is cool. Lakefront is, they're right on the Milwaukee River, and they've got like kind of. I haven't been by there. They have limited outdoor seating. But there's that. But most places have something now.
Oh, they're making it too. They're taking over parking spaces, and all that. And that's what I was seeing in Madison here. I was like, oh wow. And that I don't know. That makes me more. I'm not sure if I want to be inside for long times. I'll be inside, but I'm not sure if I want to be in there for a long time. So I think as we edge back into all this, I think that's the way to go. And then hopefully in the fall, we're clear to just kind of be back to what we're doing, because it was devastating last year, John. As far as with our breweries and our restaurants, and Wisconsin, again, it gets crazy cold here where no one should be outside. So it was really tough for them at that point.
So my wife and I, and which is why I feel better going now. One, I'm vaccinated and I trust that science, and the rates of infections are going down. So I feel like I'm okay. So we've kind of gone back to the world. It's also I feel like I earned it, I worked my ass off during this pandemic to not get me or somebody else sick, and not to say that other people that were working hard, because it just happens, right? Yep. But getting through this, it's now it's my reward to I get to re-enter the world. But we bought a patio heater for our patio, and even at Christmas, it was cold here. We had people on the patio for an hour each day. And one of the days it was 10 degrees, and we had electric blankets and the patio heater. And I got inside and the foam on my beer had frozen, and it's just part of the experience, So
man, there's some people in the comments that are, if it's under 50, I'm not going to be outside. I'm like, what is wrong with you folks? That's beautiful. You're not sweaty.
Sweater weather, man. It's
perfect.
Yeah. It's been really nice. Now it's getting hot again, but it's been really nice. When we were camping earlier this week, it was sweatshirt and shorts weather. And I think that's the best weather,
Right.
Yeah.
Agreed.
So,
right.
Yeah,
right.
It hides this pandemic body that I have going on while letting my legs breathe. So,
yeah, I am one of those idiots that when it's high 40s, I'm out in a t-shirt and shorts, because I just don't like the heat all that much. So we were talking about DC. I'll tell you, you said that's the swampiest one. I was in New Orleans in, I think it was September, and it was just the air was wet. That's the only
Yeah.
You walk in this is terrible, but I'm not comfortable in those climates. I want something like those folks out in Ireland stand outside in 40 degrees and rain. That would be me. I'd be out there just hanging out.
I'm from, I was born and for half of my childhood raised in Superior, Wisconsin, where in the summer, if it's it's not abnormal to have a 50-degree day in July. Right, because the wind off the lake could just tanks it, and I that. I think that kind of built me, So, it's I don't like heat that much, so I don't know. I think the Milwaukee's the farthest south I can really move. So,
yep. Well, yeah, humid as hell there. Absolutely. So you guys are y'all dog people. I'm not. John, does the dog clearly goes camping, right?
Oh yeah, we got 2 dogs now too.
Oh, cool.
So we got Hops and Betty, and they get it. Hops is he'll just do whatever, and Betty's she had some sort of trauma before we got her, so she's been coming around. But they love camping and chasing the squirrels and stuff, and it's nice.
What kind of dogs are they?
Hops is a black lab kind of mix. They're both rescues. And then Betty is a black husky terrier. So she's 40 pounds, but looks like a husky.
Okay. That would look kind of cool. I would
pretty
think.
Cool. She's a pretty cool dog. She's got pointy ears and a white chest and stuff like that, but she's tiny. So, which is fun, but yeah, they're great dogs. So they love camping. They love being outdoors and hiking and stuff like that. And Hops pulls a little bit, which when you're hiking up a hill is pretty handy. So,
yeah.
So the next clip I want to show has dogs in it, and that's why I said that.
Okay.
I'm going to criticize you dog people for a second, but don't jump on me, okay? Cool. I don't know how to say you dog people. That's great. Also, we've been getting really, really good video from these Do you guys have a one of those video doorknob things or doorbell things?
No.
Yeah, we do. And actually, we live out in the sticks, and now what it's turned into, Doug, is like the lady looks for like it's like a safari. So we've seen foxes, raccoons, all the neighborhood cats and dogs. That's what we see on there. We don't see anything like people doing bad things or anything. It's pretty interesting. But I'm here. Check this out.
Is this your house?
Yeah,
No.
I got a package. No! Get your dog! Get your dog! Get your dog! Get your dog!
The dog's just like,
What are you doing?
Get your dog! Get your dog! Get your dog!
down on the fucking floor.
Oh man.
All right, so there's a lot to unpack here. But the thing that really got me the most was like, okay, so he gets the door, the dog comes out.
Yeah, I got a package.
Now I understand his reaction here because because sometimes you dog people don't, and I don't know if you guys do it or not. Sometimes dog people don't restrain their dogs.
Oh,
So
bugs the hell out of me.
Right. So sometimes dogs just charge. So like I get his reaction after the initial charge of the dog, but then the dog just starts looking at him and is like, "Look, dude, chill." Like even the dog that's still, I think on some level you're watching.
Yeah, the dog was just like hanging out.
Right.
No! Get your dog!
I mean, you got to
Right.
think that guy got attacked by a dog at some point. Like there's
Oh,
some
okay, so-
trauma.
Oh, okay, so there's
Like-
dog drama here.
I mean, well, so I got bit by a loose dog at one point, and so
Okay.
if I see a loose dog out, like if there's somebody like that guy, like it's clearly like people around, so like just like but usually like I think it's like kind of an asshole thing to not have your dog on a leash in a public place because it's like you're taking the consent away from me if I don't want to deal with your dog, right?
Right.
So there's that, but like I got bit by a dog. It was at this like auto body place in West Dallas. I like walked in to get a quote on something, and there was like a dog that jumped me, and I had to like run outside and like scream to get somebody. There was nobody around.
How recent was this?
This was 2018.
Oh, okay, so recent.
Yeah. So I feel like if I like loose dogs with no owners around, like it freaks me the hell out because it's like I don't know what to do, and I am a dog person, but that dog like clearly was like, and I was like I luckily had a leather coat on, and that like saved my arm. So like because that like I got bit, so like it was not fun. So
wow,
yeah,
you can relate to the guy, is what you're saying.
Yeah. Don't ever go to West Dallas if you can help yourself. So
And that too. What West Dallas for the geography people is, I think, is it the first suburb outside of Milwaukee to the west?
Yeah, it's like it's like kind of southwest of Milwaukee. It's the first ring. It's like an old company town from an old industrial giant. And I mean, I shouldn't say like don't ever go. There's a few cool places in West Dallas, but
generally don't go there.
This was a very like West Dallas experience if I ever had one. So like everybody seems to have one.
Yeah, our friend Jeff says that that would have been him his first 44 years of his life, but now that he has a dog himself, it's totally different. I probably would have yelled again until the point to where the dog chilled, and then I would have kind of been like, "All right, y'all need to go get this dog."
I especially like the part where he turned into Edwin Moses and hurdled the fence.
He hurdled the fence, and then he was on the car.
The thing was, once you're on the car, though, like it's like you're good, right? Like wait for the people to get like at that point. Where else are you gonna go? And at a certain point, that like when I got bit, like I knew I had to stop running because I can't outrun a dog.
Right.
And some dogs, that's actually like a call for them to
chase
or play more, or whatever that is.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. Lauren's right. I was not prepared for that scream.
That's It's funny.
No, but John, you're right. Once you got on the car, I would have just stayed there.
Yeah, you're
until
on an
y'all
island.
got him off. And if I dented your car, then I don't know. I guess we got to go to Judge Judy or something because, because right. I don't know. I don't think I should have to pay for your car in that instance if I'm the delivery guy. But on some level, I don't know. I think the people who have the dog are going to lose that argument. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. But then he got off the car and then the dog ran after him. And that's what you said, John. Like at some point you have to stop running.
Right.
Like, right.
The dog has more energy than you do. So
Definitely more endurance than me too, because I'd run about 100 feet. I'm like, all right.
Yeah.
I'm done.
I hate that it's okay, they're friendly. It's not, you know what I mean? It's not that doesn't
it bothers me because I walk my dogs on a leash and people around the neighborhood might not have their dog and they're like, it's friendly. I'm like, I don't know if my dog's gonna react to your dog, you know? Like what happens if my dog bites your dog, then what happens? You know, it's just stupid. People are, you know.
We know.
Yeah.
Dude, trauma, animal food runs deep. This is true. Yeah, and when you said that, I didn't really think about it, but when you said it, John, like he's been through something before.
Mm-hmm.
That's for sure. Doug, you have something for us?
Yeah, I'm gonna go to my second beer if you guys are good with it.
I gotta just give me a second. I gotta get another beer out of the fridge.
You do that, and then we'll talk about my cellared beer that I grabbed.
Let's hear what's going on with it.
Look at the date.
420.
Yeah, so I remember having this on the show and really, really liking this beer. So Springdale is an offshoot of Jack's Abbey. So, but I remember this being really excellent fresh. So I'm going to be curious to see how it is after a year. Well, more than a year. So. Not so much chocolate on the nose as it was when it was fresh.
Yeah. What was the owner trying to get the dog? The owner was just
the owner was like just hanging out. That'd be all right.
I mean, they were like, "This is so funny, right?" Yeah.
Yeah, nice and dark. Now, when I had this fresh, the chocolate was very present on the nose. This time, the coffee is more forward. So, interesting. All right. Oh yeah, definitely different. Yeah, the chocolate just definitely went back a little bit. Like before, it was way more sweet and chocolate forward a year ago, but this is way more coffee forward. But you know me, I like coffee beers, so I'm happy with that. But this is before it wasn't quite a dessert beer before, but the chocolate was definitely more pronounced, and over the year it just kind of softened a bit. So definitely good though. Cheers. All right, what you got there?
All right, so I got to actually I'm going to make a plug for a brewery here. It's in Wauwatosa, Wauwatosa, which is next to Milwaukee. It's another suburb up to the northwest. Milwaukee kind of splits between West Allis and Wauwatosa. But so there was this brewery on North Ave. So North Ave has kind of a cool brewery scene going, right? Mm-hmm. Like you have Venture Brewing Company, which is like legit the best brewery in Milwaukee. Like,
wait. Say that again.
Venture Brewing Company.
Okay.
Well, we might be having them on fairly soon.
Oh, they're freaking like Simon and Rob and Jake are so great. So they're also one of the only, because Simon is mixed race, and so he is one of the only brewery owners of color in the whole state. So
the only, I believe, yes.
Well, so I mean, Minhas and Monroe is owned by a woman of Middle Eastern descent, but she's from Canada. So there's a whole weird, like, I don't know what you count that as, but like, it's count. Well, yeah, right. It counts. It's the Canadian thing that I'm like, how did that happen? You know what I mean? Like, how did you get to Southern Wisconsin? And same thing with the new revamped Rhinelander Brewing Company way up north. They're actually, so Minhas owns that brand. And then they started like a new version of Rhinelander up there, and that woman is of color as well. Canada doesn't count. Somebody said, okay, Canada does not count. Okay, well, right, yeah. Like if you're just Canadian, that does not make you of color, right? Obviously. But maybe like really white. So no, so you got Venture, which is so great, and then you go down, and Fermentorium has a tap room on North Ave now. And they're up in Petersburg, but Fermentorium makes some really, really good beer too.
Yes, they do.
And then
love the name of that place. The Fermentorium. That's a great name.
Yeah, it's really, their beer is pretty good too. It's kind of sciencey, right? And then just down from there, it was a brewery called Stockhouse. I don't know if either of you have ever heard of that one. And for the longest time, there are only like a select few breweries that when people come to town, I'm like, don't go to these places. They're not good. And for the longest time, this Stockhouse was one of those places. Their beer was kind of mediocre and their ownership was straight up just assholes. And so I recently heard that they got bought. Somebody bought them. And so my wife and I went in, and now they're part woman owned. And basically their beer does not suck anymore. And so we were just in this past week, and like they are like really nice, and they're great, and their beer is solid, and like they have issues with scale, like their system's not huge, and so like their capacity is kind of low, right? Like that's a pretty common problem with small breweries, is like you just invest in the bigger system at some point, right? But so the owners are this guy and this woman, and she does not have a brewing background. She has a service industry background, but she's learning the brewing side of things. And so
it's good. That's a good thing, though.
Yeah, right. Like service is like huge, right?
Service is huge, especially now since nobody wants to do it good.
Yeah, right. So like, but so she's learning the brewing side of things, and so this is her first shot at the beer, like making of things, and so it's called Beginner's Luck.
Oh,
and it's just like a light ale. Like it's their take on like a lighter beer, because they don't have time to like lager things, right? Because they already have issues with capacity. But it actually is like, it pours pretty clear, and it's like it's solid. It's like kind of malty, a little yeasty, and it's nice. So
pretty.
It's kind of got that like it's kind of bready. So for a lighter beer, which I don't mind.
Excellent. And with a beer display like you got in the back, I'm glad that you were glass appropriate with the light beer and the big.
It's a 1940s Blatz glass.
Yeah. Look at that.
Yeah.
So your story goes, for people who there've been a bunch of people who jumped in late. So you started in, what do they call that? What do they call people who collect brewery stuff?
Breweryana.
So that's like beer collection. That's where your love of beer started, is what I heard.
Yeah, well, and like it just like I always try to think about like, when did I first like learn to appreciate beer, right? And like, because I went to school in Stevens Point for the reason that the brewery is there, right? You can see all the Point cans behind me there, but and that was a huge selling point to me, and so I always liked that, but I never like equated that with like anything else other than like, this is cool stuff. And like I would collect like some stuff from garage sales, and kind of fell out with it as like I got into my early 20s, and then just started like, the bar I'm sitting at right now was my grandpa's. It's a 1967 Montgomery Ward bar. It breaks down, it travels, that kind of thing. And and so I was, I when I got a hold of that, like all of a sudden, like the beer collecting hobby took off, because now I'm like, I have to have a backdrop appropriate for this beautiful vinyl bar. And so like I have a very, very tolerant wife who lets me like kind of just go with it, so
cheers to her.
Yeah.
Yeah, cheers to her in a lot of ways.
Yeah. To that end, what is your favorite piece of what do you call it? Beerabilia?
Breweryana.
Breweryana, yeah.
I'm trying to think like what I would think, like now I gotta look around. All right. I'm gonna travel with you here. Like my bar's a mess right now too. So all right, I don't know if you can even see that, like that Rhinelander sign. So that is like, I just got that. And it was new in the box. And it's from the 80s, like early 80s. I always wanted a sign that like I could put, because I homebrew, and so it's always like fun to put like what I have on tap, because here's like my kegerator.
Right.
Is like an old fridge.
I love this place.
And so like it's like I wanted to be able to display what I have, and so I've been like keeping an eye out, and I saw like on one of the beer, there's like, if you ever want to get into this, there's like so many Facebook groups, it's
Yes.
that you can like join into. But yeah, so that sign somebody was getting rid of, and I had to talk him down a little bit on price, but the guy had owned it for a few years and never, like, he had gotten it new in the box, like from somebody else, and then he's like, I've had it for 5 years now, and I just realized I'm never putting it up, and so that was that, but it's like a fun thing to have now, because and so like you might have seen there, my home brewery is called, so I live in the neighborhood of Blue Mound Heights in Milwaukee, so my home brewery is Brew Mound Heights. So
pretty original.
Thank you. So
have you ever been to Cross Plains Brewery? Or
Esser.
Esser's, yes.
Yeah, that's what it was historically called. I lived in Middleton for like a hot minute in my 20s, working in Madison in the radio business, and I'd go out there. There's a couple of cool bars out there. I didn't know that they were still brewing beer out there.
No, they're not. It's just actually there's no production there.
Okay.
The place I went to, it was just their office, but it was one of the top couple places that I've been to as far as beer history goes.
Oh, sure.
The guy had all kinds of just old beer history. He was really nice. He was really welcoming and nice, and he came in and he just talked about it. And he just showed me around. He was showing me all these things, and it was just really, really cool. And another place that really jumped off of me history-wise, and now I'm forgetting, is obviously Lakefront. I mean, obviously we have really, really historic breweries. Oh, this is how can I forget? One of my favorite brewery tours ever is Stevens Point Brewery. And I don't know why people don't understand how cool that place is. And when you go in there, you just feel history. And not only that, when I went there, it was, Doug, you went in, you paid $5 for a tour. They gave you like 2 big beers of their higher end. Do they still do that hog brand?
Whole hog, yeah.
Whole hog, yeah. So they gave you, you could get any of their beers, but Whole Hog was on tap. They get $5. They walk you out with you get a pint glass when you walked out. They were giving like some kind of beer away. It was just fun, old school, brings you back. I just love Stevens Point Brewery for that. Stevens Point, for people who are in Wisconsin, Stevens Point Brewery is there. And then the next town over are 2 of the biggest breweries in Wisconsin, name-wise, which is Oso and Central Waters.
Yep.
So you can get like
Lincoln Kugel's in Wisconsin, or am I mistaken?
Yeah, and the Liney's is over in Chippewa Falls, which is on the western side. But Liney's has been owned by Miller since the 80s.
Oh,
right.
Okay.
So well, not that they make fine beer, but like
right. But they're probably like what, an hour and a half north or an hour? No.
They're like, I mean, that's probably almost 2 hours from Stevens Point.
Okay. Yeah. Right. But the Stevens Point area my point is that it has new breweries, like Central Waters is on the front edge of most of the, solar panels, all that. Also just moved into a new spot, I believe, or they expanded or they did something. And then you still have Stevens Point Brewery, the same building, the same recipes, the same everything. I don't know. Again, this is your stomping ground, so I don't know if you want to talk about any of that.
So I wrote a book about them. So
let's talk about that.
Well, so they're the depending on the metric you look at as far as like single ownership, independent, whatever. Like you can confidently say they're the 5th oldest brewery in the United States. And then if you're talking about independently owned, they're the 2nd oldest behind Yingling. So like there's like a lot of like, there's a lot of history there, and they're like they stay true to that in a lot of ways, and I'm still involved with them in many different ways. And it's like it's a fun brewery to be a part of, and their beer, like Point Special, is a solid beer, like as far as just like a lighter style lager goes, and that's like been their beer since Prohibition. So like you're literally drinking history in that glass. But no, it's good because you got. So you do, you said Central Waters, and you got Oso, and those places are great. There's a new brewery in, there you go. But there's a new brewery in And they do soda, which is also yummy.
Whoa! Soda?
Yeah, their root beer's really, really good. All their stuff's really good. Yeah.
Wait, I've seen the PB Cup before.
PB Cup is so good. They got a cease and desist from Reese's when they first put that out. They had to make it a little more blurry as far as the logo went. But their Bach is like a classic Bach. And then I was just in Stevens Point actually yesterday, so this is really funny. But the Hazy Pebbles IPA that you see on the left there, that's like their new, like they're kind of like going into like, more of the trendy styles in that one. And it's pretty good.
Yeah, that's weird.
Yeah, so like that's pretty good. But yeah,
that Bach beer sounds super interesting because Bach's not a style I see a whole lot of. I don't know if you guys do.
No, and this is like a throwback to like historical Bach beers. And so it's like a 5% alcohol darker beer that won't put you on your butt. And that's really nice. And I homebrewed. So the brewery I deal with the most, the first black brewery in Wisconsin was called Peoples. There's a guy in Oshkosh who like researched the recipes behind some of those historic beers that don't like exist anymore. And so that's, I still have that on tap right now at home. I homebrewed it, but that one's funny because it's got like 2 pounds of brown sugar in it.
Wow.
So like the yeast like love that. And then it's got like it's got that brown sugary taste on the back end of things too. But Points does not have brown sugar in it, but it's nice. So, but yeah, the PB Cup is really good. My wife and I got married in Stevens Point. We had Point Special on, and then they do the milkshake porter. It's like the milkshake malt porter, and that's like my wife's favorite beer. So,
yeah, that one was. So I had
it's pretty good. It's pretty good.
I had a buddy at work that he lived outside of Milwaukee. I don't know exactly where, but he brought me back that PB Cup once when he went, and he brought me a couple of New Glarus and all that stuff. But the PB Cup was really good, as I recall. That's why I was like, oh yeah, I've had that one. But
yeah,
that milkshake malt porter, that sounds excellent.
It's really just creamy and nice. So yeah, they make decent beer, and they're good people, and they're like keeping on a legacy, which you got to respect. So
yeah, and you feel it's one of those places that you feel you're walking in history when you walk in there,
and you literally are, like
and
that brew house that they still brew in is from the 1870s.
1870s. And again, it's a big, in my opinion, transposition. I don't know. You guys are writers. Sorry. It's a big difference between we're used to, all the breweries now are like, modern or, you know what I'm saying? Like you can tell that they're new places when you walk in. It's just really cool when you can walk into a place like, Stevens Point or Lakefront, where you just feel the history. You feel it. Like it's something, as a historian probably knows what I'm talking about. As far as you can feel history in a place. In some places you can feel like, even if they have a history, sometimes, whether the renovations or how it's laid out, you can't feel the history. Stevens Point is a place you feel the history, and it's great.
Yeah, I mean they've built that brewery up over time and just kept on adding on to it. So you're literally like walking back in time as you walk further into the brewery. So it's kind of fun.
You were talking earlier about Yingling, and Yingling doesn't feel like that.
So Yingling, though, so you can go out to. My wife and I have gone out to Pottsville, Pennsylvania, which is like, let me tell you, like, go to the brewery. The town is like.
I grew up 30 minutes from that place, so I know exactly what the fuck you're talking about.
Yeah, it's like
we should go visit.
We were like, oh, we'll stop there for a night, and then we'll go up to like upstate New York, and like we stopped there for a night, and even the people at the brewery were like, what's there to do here? And they're like, do you like bowling? And we're like,
yeah.
And we're like, yeah, I mean, yeah, we like bowling. They're like, our bowling alley sucks. Like, and that was like, it was like the weirdest experience because we had fun on the brewery tour. It was cool. Like they brought us down into the caves and like, that was neat. But I don't know. It's like
you're in the cold regions of Pennsylvania. You're not getting a lot of entertainment there.
Well, and like the problem is too is like the economies have left those places, so it's like there's just
not good.
It wasn't, but we it was fun to be there. It's different though because Yingling, they don't brew most of the beer at that historic facility anymore. So they have something down the street, and they got someone in Tampa, and now they got a deal with Miller, right?
Yep.
So it's a little they say like and I know like you can't. I got into it on Twitter, and my wife was like, "What are you doing?" But like it was like because I'm like they're not the oldest brewery because like the brewery they don't even brew it, like, so, so like at what point is the brand separate from the physical space?
And you got into a fight with Yingling Brewery? Oh.
No, it's when they like announced that they went into a partnership with Miller to try to bring, because now they're going to expand westward and we'll be able to get
there's
Yingling
no more
and stuff like that.
distribution.
Which I don't mind their beer. Their beer's fine. But it's like, I put it on there. I'm like, you say you're America's oldest brewery, but you don't brew in that building or space anymore. And at what point does that make a difference? And I didn't get it. They gave me some corporate answer, but like the beer Twitter people went like ape on me, being like, it doesn't matter. Like, And I'm like, it does. I really think it does.
Right.
Can you really truly have a New England IPA outside of New England? Like it's like champagne or bourbon. It's like where you brew things. Yuckling. That's funny. But like where you brew things.
That is a very common way of people on the East Coast talking about Yingling and if you don't like it.
So when I go out to the East Coast, and now it's weird because I can find it in Milwaukee. I would always get a Narragansett from a Gansett. Yeah, I like Narragansett, man. I like it. It's like
we finally get some of their stuff here. And
they just started. I can find it in Milwaukee now, and so that's like weird to see because it's like that's just an East Coast beer, but I don't mind it.
Go, Doug.
I was going to say I'm in upstate New York, and I just started seeing that in the last like year and a half here. So
I was at a bar here, and it was like, I was like, you have Narragansett, and they're like, we don't know what the hell that is, and I'm like, this stuff is like, I think it's delicious. So
Narragansett, that's what I know it is. But it's funny, but Narragansett. Why is Narragansett any different than Pabst? Meaning it's a lower level, not a lower level beer. It's just
It's also contract brewed. Like the original brewery doesn't exist for Narragansett anymore,
Oh, wow. Same with Pabst too, right?
Pabst is the same thing,
Right.
I mean, Blatz, same thing. I mean, Blatz hasn't been like brewed by Blatz for a long, long time. That's a whole nother tangent. But yeah, like it's just, like there's, I mean, that's where it's like, how do you separate the brand from the physical space or the city even,
I've seen this happen with the Baron. Does it happen with you where people freak out that you like Narragansett or you like Pabst or you like, Point? Sometimes people think like, John Harry, beer historian, home brewer, craft beer lover, he can't like Narragansett. You know what I mean? Like, so they do it with the Beer Baron too, because
this is like Miller High Life.
This is Miller High Life.
High Life is delicious.
It's a great beer. But like, I think it's a great beer. Actually, if in that lane, it's a great beer. But people lose their minds when Chris Drosner says that he loves it.
I think that's bullshit. Just in like the sense that like, if you like something, you like something. And I'm never going to trash you. Like if your favorite beer is Miller Lite, I don't give a shit. Like it doesn't affect me.
Right.
Like that's not my favorite beer, but what does that matter? And especially in the beer community now, with the way that like beer is like plateauing in some ways in sales and losing market share to like hard seltzer and other like FMBs and ciders.
Weed in some places.
Right. And you used to just be happy that somebody's drinking a beer, right? Like, It's like, just enjoy, there's a craft even to making a beer. And, so like you think about like one of the best breweries in the state of Wisconsin is New Glarus, right? Mm-hmm. And Dan Carey, so half of the ownership there, he was a brewer for Budweiser, for Anheuser-Busch. And like, he would fight you to say that like they aren't craft. Because there's a craft in what they do too. There's something to be said about like mass consistency.
Yes.
And like I've been on a weird High Life kick for the last few weeks. I don't know why, but like been drinking a lot of that, and I've been drinking a lot of Point Special too. But you also see the craft beer scene is like same thing with this like Stockhouse beer, where they're like, we needed to have something to appeal to people who aren't familiar with like IPAs and porters and stuff, and so you need to have that like accessible beer that they're like, oh, this is like a step above my Miller Lite or Bud Light or whatever, or at least maybe I'll try this stuff. Yeah, right, exactly. So, yeah, I mean, my in-laws, they're up in Green Bay, which is oddly like a Bud Light town, and that's what they drink. And last summer, they started drinking that St. Archer that Miller Coors was making. And and then they pulled that product, and that was like they were just starting to get into it, and I'm like, that's that is a step above like Bud Light, right? And or maybe that was an Anheuser-Busch product, but you know what I mean? Like it was,
it
it's
was
like
mass produced by somebody. I don't know.
St. Archer's a craft brewery in San Diego that they bought out. And so, but then pandemic hit and they couldn't like get around it. So it's like, whatever, like just drink beer, just be happy. I don't know. I don't care. You don't affect me. So like if you're drinking a beer and you like the beer, you drink the beer.
Right.
Now seltzer, I will fight you.
Oh, okay. Now I think it took an hour and we hit a nerve.
I think with seltzer, it's like there's not like, I don't know. Like I can easily, if I'm home brewing, like it's like I'm going to make like sparkling alcoholic water. Like that doesn't like, there's not like an experience of drinking that to me where you taste like this heritage and history and ingredients. It's just like, here's fruit with bubbles and alcohol. And I just like, I'm like, if I want to do that, I'll have a gin and tonic.
Amen to that.
So like I just don't like, and I think it's just so weird, like the way that's like transformed beer culture as far as like it's obviously here to stay in a certain way. We'll see if it's got like high level staying power, but it doesn't bother me, or it does bother me.
Yeah, I think it's also on the same level with the here's the super low carb beers. I think it's just all in that same vein where it's like we're appealing to the quote unquote fitness crowd.
Yeah,
that's how I see
it doesn't like beer will weigh you down after a while, even if you're not into fitness. Like it's a heavy beverage at times. Yeah. But I don't know.
The ones with flavor, John, are heavy. That's in my opinion.
That's
like
true.
They're one. I don't know if you've had one. I'm not a seltzer person, and I wasn't. And generally, I generally agree with you. But I've had a few well-made ones, and meaning well-made, I mean they had some flavor. Like even if I'm just sitting bullshitting with you at the bar down at Oso Madhouse, I still want some flavor. Like I still want to have an experience. And you're right, seltzer's really not an experience like beer is. Right. There's not that cultural thing. I mean, it's gonna have to take it's just never gonna catch up. How about that? I mean, beer culture goes back. Talking to a beer historian, I mean,
millennia.
Yes, right. So it's almost really an unfair comparison, but it's also an unfair comparison because a lot of beers are very, very tasty, and a lot of seltzers, in my opinion, aren't. But I guess that's when you're trying to cut back on calories and you're trying to make something light. I guess that's what you get. So you get what you get.
I've been drinking like I don't like I will shift, and like there are times where I'm like I just don't want to like I don't want to drink alcohol, and I've been really into that Athletic Brewing Company.
Yeah,
that stuff is killer. That stuff is really good. And then like Untitled Art out of Wanakee at the Octopi space there, they make some NA stuff that's really good too. And that like if you're looking to like cut calories, that's great. You don't get the buzz, but like it's decent beer. So
Doug, were you going to say something about non-alcoholic beers? I don't know if anybody's seen. There was a dust up in the group about them this week.
Yeah.
Well, it wasn't a dust. It wasn't. I don't think it was about non-alcoholic beers. It was a dust up about marketing in the group.
Yeah, but we have one of our folks in our group who's been on the show a couple times is a recovering alcoholic, and he misses a tasty beer. But NA beers are a way for him to be able to have beer flavor without having the effects of the alcohol part. Now, granted, there's always a small bit of alcohol in them, but like, hey, if that's something that you can do and you're recovering alcohol and you miss the flavor stuff and you can achieve that, awesome. Like, looking great, man. Like, and if you're looking to have something, you want the beer flavor, but you just don't want the booze part of it.
Yeah.
Whatever. There's non-alcoholic gin and stuff like that now, and that stuff is supposedly excellent. I haven't had it, but like, hey, whatever floats your freaking boat.
Well, like NA beer has like taken like leaps and bounds because like since college, like I just need a break sometimes. Like if beer stops being exciting to me, I need a break because I love beer. And so, but like at times it was like you either get your like O'Doul's or your Sharps, and that stuff sucks. And like Caliber's okay, right? But this stuff is like another level, like NA beer. I don't know if you guys saw it, but Lakefront just put out NA River West Stein.
No,
wow!
And I haven't had it yet, but I got to imagine it's decent if they're actually putting it out, because they're putting their whole reputation on the line with that one. So,
wow. So
but like that's great.
NA is not going away. And John, you literally took the words out of my mouth, which was, this is what I love about NA beers, which is I don't drink them myself, so I don't love them in that way, at least at this point. But I do love that they're an alternative. And it really, really surprises me that there people who drink regular beer are loving athletic and non-alcoholic beers to the level that they are. And I'm just completely surprised by it. And I think it's fantastic on so many levels. But O'Doul's, the problem with O'Doul's is like that's what people put in their head as non-alcoholic beer. So then when you think of non-alcoholic beer, you think of O'Doul's. You know, it's kind of like the same people, John. You know them too. When they think of beer, they think of Bud Light, and they think of Bud, and they think of American Light Lager. They're not talking about that wonderful porter that your mother, I'm sorry, not your mother, your wife likes. They're not talking about the peanut butter cup that JHG like or wants to try or the Doug likes. They're not talking about an Imperial Porter. They're talking about Bud. So that's a problem where, you know, people, I'm going to Google something. They're just talking about Google. They're not talking about Yahoo search. They're not talking about Bing. You know what I'm saying? So there's a level where that's really important, that branding, like, you know, NA beers, O'Doul's. So now people are associating NA beers with athletic brewing, which is really, really, it's huge and it's great because athletic brewing now, in my opinion, from what I hear, is associated with beer. It's not beer, but it tastes like beer, and it's something that I can have. That I can, you know, I can have a couple during the day, and me and the wife can still go out for dinner, and I can be functional.
Right. Yeah. Absolutely.
And I just think it's fascinating. I think it's great. I don't know if I didn't want to get to NA beer this chat, but we're here. So if you want to opine a little bit more on it, is there any, you know, you mentioned O'Doul's, opine on, I think you opined on the NA beer, but if you want to go on further, but do you any more history on
I mean, that was like, near beer was made during Prohibition, right? Like every brewery, like that was like the easiest thing they could do because to make, like, I would love to go to Athletic to be like, can I taste your beer before you take the alcohol out? Like, I want to know what this actually tasted like. Because and the systems have changed so much, you know, and over time. But during Prohibition, most breweries made some sort of near beer. And in those days, the process was basically like, we're going to make the beer, ferment it, and boil out the alcohol, which like heating up freshly brewed beer is bad, right? So like it probably didn't taste great. It didn't sell great either. It probably just tasted kind of like beer. And some breweries got in trouble because like, oh, they forgot to take the alcohol out. I wonder how that happened. You know, so that's how I don't know if there was like a lot of like NA, I don't know if there was like really actually NA beer before that because there wasn't like a need for it. So like it started getting innovated on, and then I think after that it became like, as there's been like more of a sober movement, especially for people like dealing with things like alcoholism, as that become like something that's more socially acceptable to talk about, it's become more of something that is marketable, right? So then the large breweries like Miller and Anheuser-Busch can like put out Sharps and O'Doul's and have that just like, that's a different marketing thing to say, hey, we're appealing to this like other segment of the population that doesn't want to drink alcohol. So I think that's important because like I said, like I think everybody, like I love the taste of beer, and it like pains me to think that some people don't get that choice because either like they have health reasons or mental health reasons or something like that, where it's just not a possibility. And so it's so great that like there are like all these NA options that like now exist. I was just thinking about, so I have a sister, my oldest sister, she had liver disease her whole life. She passed away a few years ago, and that's like not a big, I got to go into that. But like she, like I would have a beer and she would smell it and she'd just be like, this smells so good. And I'm like, and she like could never enjoy that because like there were not like options of NA beers that like she could really like get into. So
real quick, Doug has a follow up, I believe, but what you were talking about sparked a thing in my head, which is how long is it going to take Big Beer to be up Athletics' ass, if that makes any sense? Meaning, when is this going to get big enough for them to catch on and say, hey, we need to do a non-alcoholic stout? hey, we need to do a
They
non-alcoholic
do those.
IPA.
They do.
Hey,
They do those.
What's that?
They do those.
They haven't. Oh, okay, and if they are, but I'm just saying.
Athletic has done a non-alcoholic stout.
No, hold on. No. When is Big Beer going to do a non-alcoholic stout and a big IPA?
I mean, one is
you know what I mean?
Miller,
Like, when are they going to say, "Hey, this is lucrative enough for us to make some money"?
When is Miller gonna do a stout? Period. Like that's not gonna, like that's the thing. It's not their market. You know what I mean? Like they are a volume business of product. So it's like, how much can we get out of here for this, and how much shelf space can we get out of this? What I would think more would be the thing, because if you'll notice, like the thing that has changed within Big Beer since craft beer is like they've stopped innovating in a lot of ways, other than now they make seltzer. So they've stopped like trying to make different products that fit under like a Coors line or a Budweiser line or something like that, and instead they just buy craft breweries.
Right.
And say, hey, here's like a few $1,000,000. Let's make your life easier. And now you do it, and it looks like a craft product.
Right. So they're going to buy Athletic, is what I just heard. So, Doug, you have a follow-up?
Nope.
Sorry, Athletic fans. I didn't say that. I didn't mean that.
I was just ready for third beer. So
You go faster than me.
Yeah.
I didn't even tell y'all. Oh, we do this every week. So
yes, you do. You always fall behind, motherfucker. What did you drink for your second one?
Yeah, well, you know why? It's because we have a guest that is worthy of our time. And that's it. Okay, thank you. I blame it on the guest because that's the truth, damn it. I had this cold box Tetris.
Yeah,
that was IPA.
That was my winner last week.
Yeah, and it's gone.
Yeah, it's good though, right?
Yes, sir. I don't know what the tasting notes are. At this point of the stream, I never do. Sorry, guys.
That's
Go on, Doug.
So this is Single Cuts Eric More Cowbell Stout.
What?
Chocolate milk stout. More cowbell.
Fun.
Can't go wrong with that title.
How do you do stouts all year long?
What's that?
How do you do stouts all year long?
I do. I love stouts. It's my favorite style.
Keep up, Greg. It's hard.
Also, Eric is my youngest son's name, so perfect.
Okay. Is this your second stout of the night?
Yeah, the first one was that mocha stout that was only 6.5%. So
only
6.8. I apologize.
Only.
Greg, I've done shows where I've had 3 10% beers. Like
I understand. I'm just
All right. The chocolate is very much on the nose.
Well, that looks tasty. Nice.
What's that?
Thick. That looks good, nice and thick.
Yeah. Single Cut makes some really cool beers, and their can art is fucking awesome.
I got one of them when I was out east. I got some of their stuff. It was delicious.
Yep.
They did one that made it look like the Beach Boys' Pet Sounds album, I think.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. That's like cool. It had like the album art. It was pretty. Maybe I'm pretty sure it was Single Cut. But
yeah, so this one's actually only 6%, so not a super high ABV one. Drink ASAP in a clean, wide mouth glass.
How'd you do with that?
Yeah, like not clean, that's for sure. I try. We're like the dirty glass guys here. We try our best, and it never works. But this is really good with the chocolate and the vanilla notes. I mean, obviously it's got lactose because it's the thing for it being a milk stout, but the lactose isn't like, sometimes that can be a little cloying. It's not like that on this. This is really super drinkable. Like I said, not super heavy, but like, yeah, it would probably be better in like a fall around a fire or something like that, if I'm being honest, but really tasty.
All right. I think I'm going to ask John a serious question. So before that,
why do you keep following me? It's honestly so creepy, and I'm gonna call the cops. Okay?
Man, no.
Because you guys aren't leaving me alone, and that's why women can't go out in the world by themselves because of guys like you.
What?
Okay, so stop following me.
You have, I don't know if you have like a gas. You have a thing hanging out of your car.
What are you talking about?
There's literally a gas hose hanging out of your car. No one's being creeped. Oh, no, thank you. I guess.
Oh my god.
There's a thank you.
Oh, she took it.
She's what? She's taking it with her.
Did she take it in her car?
Thank you to get all of it. Wow, dude. She didn't even close the gas can.
Oh my god. So was she yelling at them because they were tailing her?
Uh-huh.
Yes, and they were tailing her so that they would tell her. They were trying to tell her that she had something on the back of her.
Leave me alone. Why do you keep following me? It's honestly.
Look, he goes, you have he's trying to talk to her, and she's like, well, will you just leave me alone? Like, she thinks she's being harassed, and I think they're probably like trailing her and like, you know what I mean, hitting the lights and right.
Leave me alone. Why do you keep following me? It's honestly so creepy, and I'm gonna call the cops. Okay?
Man, no.
Because you guys aren't leaving me alone, and that's why women can't go out in the world by themselves because of guys like you. What? Okay, so stop following me.
You have. Oh, like I don't know if you have like a gas.
Watch her reaction when she sees it, though. Watch.
What are you talking about?
There's literally a gas.
Look at her face.
Hanging out of your car. No one's being creeped.
All right. So I have a question about the hose.
There's the thing.
If you rip a gas hose off of that at a gas station, does like gas just keep flowing out of it, or does it have like a shut off?
I'm pretty sure. I could be wrong, but I guess they make those things that like they snap off now because a bunch of people have. She wasn't the first one to do it. Let's just say that.
No,
you know
but I would think they'd have like a shut off procedure, but Jesus, like
wow. Right. I mean, they clearly do, Doug. Otherwise, or not clearly, but I think you know what I mean. Once one of those rips, so I think they're meant to like rip off after a certain probably like pressure, and then it probably just shuts off or something. They got to do something though, because again, clearly this happens more often than not. And then it's funny though because she was pissed off. She got out of that car and walked past the hose in the thing. She had to walk. You know what I mean? So she didn't even see it. She was just so like, yeah, it's right. She said it. She literally walked past the damn hose sticking out of her car. Right. But sometimes you can just be so caught up in a situation, you know what I mean, that you just walk. You know what I'm saying, guys? Or...
Yep.
Okay. All right. No comments on that. All right. That's.
I think we've all left our gas cap hanging out.
Right.
I have never driven away from a gas pump with a fucking hose in it ever. You're right. That hose there was like 6 feet of hose hanging off the fucking thing.
I really like her commitment to like taking it with her. I'd be like I'm just gonna like put this in the car and deal with it. You know,
I'm gonna put this smelly gas hose in my fucking Mercedes and drive the fuck off with it.
Right.
Right. Okay. So the gas pump has a breakaway device that detaches the hose automatically if it's pulled with enough force. And even if someone did knock over the gas pump, today's equipment. Okay.
Thank you, JHD research guy. We appreciate it.
Yes. Well, yep. From Business Insider. Yeah. So yeah, there's that. I don't know how I segue to what I'm going to talk about. What I want to talk about now from that. But hey, we're gonna try. So, real quick, John. People's Brewing was the first black-owned brewery in Wisconsin. Did I say that right?
That's correct.
Okay, cool. So then, long story shorter, and I'm gonna save John some time, but if he wants to talk, he can give us the cliff notes. John has 2 wonderful pieces out. Good Beer Honey. About this, right? Correct. They're both there, right?
Yep.
Okay. So what happens is, long story shorter, and I'm gonna toss it to him. He's gonna tell me everywhere I went wrong in the summary, and then he can correct me. So it's great. But People's Brewery was the first black-owned brewery in Wisconsin, Doug. And then, long story short, I mean, this was in 70s, John.
1970, yeah.
Okay. A whole bunch of racism, some bad mismanagement, and a lot of different bad things happened at one time that People's really wasn't able to take off.
Right.
So, long story short, there's been a resurgence of this brand and somebody has found out the significance of it, in my opinion, and they have taken it and kind of run with it. So I'm gonna kind of leave that to you, John. You had a wonderful, fantastic piece.
Well, thank you.
If you guys, I'll put it up here in a little bit, and I'll make sure that I put it back on my social media this weekend for anybody who wants to read it. But Peoples has a resurgence. I want everybody to read it. So when John starts talking, I'm going to put it up.
Okay.
So I want everybody to read it. So John, I don't want you to tell everything. I
won't
want you
give
to
it away.
Yeah, I want you to be
I
able to.
can give you some stuff I didn't put in the article. How's that sound?
There we go.
Some of that stuff. So yeah, so People's so they closed in 1972 in Oshkosh. I mean, these small breweries are going out of business left and right anyway, and so they were facing an uphill battle for a number of causes. But the Mack family partnered with this brewery in Sacramento, California, which kind of makes no sense to the story of the beer. Because the brewery was a long-standing brewery in Oshkosh, Wisconsin. The Mack family lives in Atlanta, and that's where the guy who owned it, his name is Theodore Mack. That's where he lived. Like that's where he died. Right in later years, he moved to Atlanta. He's originally from Alabama. Like, why Sacramento? And so basically, this former NBA player, former Sacramento mayor named Kevin Johnson.
Yes.
Owns a bunch of, like, you might remember him from the Phoenix Suns back in the day. He basically took his money he made from sports and is investing it all over the place in different things like that. And so one of them is this brewery. Now, the interesting thing that I don't know if the Mack family knows is Kevin Johnson doesn't have a great track record when it comes to a lot of things, especially he's got all these sexual assault allegations. When he was a mayor of Sacramento, the city attorney instituted a no hugging policy at City Hall because it had, like, the complaints had gotten so bad about this guy.
You mean Kevin Johnson, like the former Phoenix Suns player?
You are correct.
Yes.
And then he also had, and then like there was other, like the hugging thing is like that's light stuff compared to like some of the other accounts of the stuff, women.
Yes.
So if you use Google like Kevin Johnson sexual assault, it's not a pretty picture.
Right.
And then he also like he took advantage of some funds. He was mayor during the Obama administration and took some of those like bailout funds for the city, and then basically like got like in a scandal about misuse of funds, of like funneling it towards things it wasn't supposed to go to. And so like there's all these like there's this weird like backstory, and so he reads about People's Brewing Company somewhere on the internet, and gets in touch with the Mack family and like flies out there, and then they end up going to business with this guy. So like that's just like really, I think, an interesting like layer that I really couldn't get into in the article because I didn't want it to become about like this guy's like misdeeds, right? But like they're definitely like there. And so it's Oak Park Brewing Company in Sacramento is what's brewing this beer now. I would, how do I say this without getting myself into trouble? They say they have the original recipe, but it's different than the original recipe. So, original recipe, I think is a dumb term anyway. But because like, what the hell does that mean? What I'm saying though is, so there's a guy in Oshkosh named Lee Reihertzer, who's a beer historian there, who got a hold of one of the former brewmasters, not a brewmaster. He's worked in the brewery as a brewer. So he wasn't in charge of everything, but he worked as a brewer. And he had his notes from when he worked at People's. And the recipe that Lee passed on to me, based on what the people at Oak Park told me, is different. And the difference is actually based on Lee's first mistake in making the beer. And Lee has a blog that's fantastic where he put the first version of his recipe that's wrong up on, and that's the version I'm pretty sure this brewery's making. And like, like there's other stuff too. So they sent me this brewery sent me these cans of this beer.
Yeah.
And it like, and so which was really nice of them. Like, and I think they're just trying to like, I think like the Kevin Johnson is not, he's like more of a silent partner, and the people who run it day to day are different. and they sent me some of the beer, which is really nice of them. And it tastes. I've homebrewed the version that Lee put together. That's like the accurate version. And it tastes really different. And part of that, I think, so when I was talking to them, because in homebrewing, and I don't get into this too much, because like Milwaukee and Wisconsin in general has great water quality. Like we live, like we're bordered by a bunch of Great Lakes. Our aquifers are stocked. Like for homebrewing, I don't need to like do much. I just use the water out of my tap, and it does it. I don't know what the water like profile looks like in Sacramento. I can't imagine it's the same as Oshkosh, Wisconsin. It's just a very different part of the world. And water chemistry is really important, because if you're like, say, making a New England style IPA, you're going to change your water chemistry. If you're making like a Belgian Abbey beer, you're going to change your water chemistry if you really want to be accurate to it. And they told me, because I said, are you trying to match an Oshkosh or Wisconsin water profile? And they said, no, that doesn't matter. And so like that to me, I'm like, you're not being authentic to the brand then either. And you really, like, and like this story has a lot to do with Oshkosh, Wisconsin, and a small brewery, and you're leaving like them completely out of this. And so like I stand by my work and my reporting in that piece, and I sent them the link to the article, and I haven't heard shit back from them. So that's on that.
Right. So the thing, okay, you can say I'm right or wrong, but what I'm feeling from you is that you and again, this is a side of your research, and this is now I'm asking your opinion right now. I'm not asking your approach to the research and all that, but it feels like your opinion is that you feel some almost regret about the way maybe this is going to turn out because of the process that is happening or not happening.
I mean, I don't know. I don't know if regret's the right word. I feel like, because I've become like intimately attached to this story, right? Like this is my master's thesis. This is 100 pages of this guy's life. And the factors that surrounded how he owned this brewery. And I feel more so like the family is getting taken advantage of for the pursuit of trying to have this trendy beer, right? Because it's like, oh, like it like builds on like the Black is Beautiful thing, and it's like we're brewing the beer that was made by the first African American brewer or whatever, that kind of thing. And so like they're like co-opting that legacy and incorrectly doing it, and not bringing in, they're trying to like go it alone so far that it's like, if you just would have gone about this differently, like this may have turned out different. And that kind of goes for the Mac family too, in a certain way, where it's like, because like there's certain places where they could have reached out to different people too. But I don't like, they claim they found the original recipe in their dad's files, but again, it's different than the other one, and they're really secretive about everything. And so it's like they didn't, the recipe that Lee had from that former brewer was from 1968, and they bought it in 1970. So you're telling me they changed that recipe in 2 years? I doubt it.
Right. And if it was a tweak, like a little.
Right. And they're missing an entire category of hops. So it's like,
okay. So everybody jump over to Good Beer Hunting here. I believe if you go to goodbeerhunting.com and then put John's name in there, I believe it'll pop up too, because he's the author. So I think you could even Google John Harry Good Beer Hunting. I think that's how I found it. So this is available. It's out there. Two really good pieces about People's Brewing, especially if you're in Wisconsin. But if you just like beer history in general, they're very well written, Doug, and you almost kind of fall into the story. So it's really good. Cheers, John.
Cheers.
Hey,
thanks. Yeah, and I hope that like, I think like they're pissed that I'm not writing the press release story. Like they have a press release that they put out, and and I think that like if the Mac family does have the recipe and they have all these files, it's like, well, man, let's let the world see those things. Like like you want to have a legacy for your patriarch of your family. Like, let's do that. So.
So, Doug, real quick, I'll let you have a follow-up, but before that, since I'm getting chastised for not drinking enough beer on the show, Um, Green Queen. Did you get this one, Doug?
I considered having that in the show, except it's a double IPA.
Well, look at the art on this bad
The art
boy.
on that is lovely, for sure.
So, John, does can art affect the way you buy beer?
Absolutely. Well, we were just so somebody put in there like that single cut. It was not Pet Sounds, it was Hop Sounds. So they changed it to look like Hop Sound. You know, it looked like the Beach Boys album. And I totally bought that beer based on that can art. You know, like I gotta say, like I love classic designs. I love funky things too. Like, and I don't know always what like it's not like if I haven't tasted the beer and all I'm looking at is the can art, like the can and what's like they say on the can totally matters. I think it's like you're how do you package what you want people to feel and taste? I gotta say, so I like their beer a lot, but Oso, I'm not a fan of their can art.
Oh, now we're gonna bring that shit up.
You gotta bring it up. It's just like, really, this is what you came up with, and it must sell. But like, when I was in Point last night and saw an Oso can, I'm like, I don't get it. Like, how did this be what you came up with?
Right.
I'm gonna tell you what. Greg brought me a can or two of Oso beer, and not just a can art. It's the font. The font for Oso is like, no, thank you.
I mean, I like they have one beer that they just make that's like it's like a kind of an amber lager, and all it says is lager on it, and I'm fully in support of that. Like, it's just lager beer, great, that's awesome. But like, it's like it looks like clip art. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, but when you see like the Oso and it's just like Oso, and I'm like, okay, that's a cool name.
Yeah, that's what it's just this beer lager, right?
You could be doing so much more with your labeling.
Yeah, it totally makes a difference to me when I'm like, just because you're like bombarded with choices, so like,
yes,
it's got to stand out somehow if I haven't heard of it before for me to like actually want to buy it. Because like, I don't know, craft beer 6-pack, you're at least spending like $10. That's a lot.
Yeah. Oh, I have a question for you, Wisconsinites. Is there an OPA beer?
No, it's not OPA. It's OPE.
OPE.
So, like, are you familiar with the concept of OPE?
I know it's kind of like a catch-all for a lot of different things.
That's like OPE, I got to squeeze past you here. Like that's pretty common. Like, yeah. Is there an OPE beer? I think there is. I think somebody's made one that has OPE in it.
Is there an OPE beer?
I feel like that Charlie Barron's guy might have made one or something like that.
But it feels like somebody would have capitalized on that sort of very niche part of Wisconsin to make a beer by that name. I would think somebody would have done that.
I gotta look. I'm gonna look right now.
Right. Also would be a great place.
Bell's. Bell's made it. That's who it is. Bell's. So Michigan. I mean, it's Midwest, right? But yeah, so they made an OPE. It's a golden ale.
I have a couple of friends who live in Michigan that are good city, maybe. But like, I have a couple of friends in Michigan who say that a lot, and like just in conversation, you're just like, oh, okay. So it's definitely like not just a Wisconsin thing; it's definitely a Midwest thing. So
yeah, it's. I mean, it's more a Wisconsin thing, I think, than I've lived in Minnesota before, and I've spent a lot of time in Iowa and Illinois too, and I've heard it more in Wisconsin. But yeah, it's. I didn't realize somebody put out when I was working in radio. Somebody put out like a list of like, this is the most common word you say in your state, and Wisconsin's was OPE. And I was like, I don't ever say that. What are you talking about?
Right.
And then like I started paying attention, and I was like, I say it multiple times a day. So yeah.
Fuck. That's my word.
Yeah. Well, that's probably New York's word.
I have no idea what New York's word, but that's probably way up there.
Forget about it, right?
Forget about it.
That's very specific. That's a very specific region of New York. It's Long Island and certain parts of New York City.
Long Island.
Long Island.
Right. Sorry. Long Island. So John, you're in our beer group, right?
Yeah, you bet.
Okay, so I've been talking to the moderators about expanding the beer group into just a spirits group or just a distill group. And the reason is because I found out that I'm pretty sure that people who drink beer drink other stuff. I don't think people just drink beer exclusively. I don't know anybody that just says I just have beer. So when it's not time for beer, and I know it's not seltzers, where do we go, Mr. Harry? Where do we go as far as distilled spirits? And then are you jumping into any of the craft distilleries that we see popping up all the time?
Yeah, so my favorite craft distillery I will just put up is in Plover, actually not far from where Oso started, and it's Great Northern makes just phenomenal booze.
Okay.
Great Northern is great, and you can find it all over the place. It ain't cheap, but it's good. No, like I like right now it's like gin and tonic season. Like that's a perfect hot weather cocktail. But usually, like the family drink is a bourbon Manhattan. Like in which is, if you're not in the know of that, it's basically bourbon, vermouth, and a little bit of cherry juice and some bitters. So it's basically one ingredient.
You didn't put sugar in it?
No, that's an old fashioned then.
Oh, okay, yeah, true.
Yeah,
true. I'm thinking old fashioned style.
You can do it. We like old fashions in Wisconsin, and there's a time and place for those. And I love those. You know what I mean? But no, so my dad. So I graduated with my master's a couple weeks ago. My dad surprised me last weekend, and part of my grad present was 3 bottles of high-end bourbon. So I got.
Let's see it. Yes.
Basil Hayden's.
Oh, like that. What version of Basil Hayden's is that?
This is.
Because there's several, but
yeah, I think this is just like the straight up. Like this.
Yeah,
is
but
not
Basil Hayden's is a good shit.
It's really good. And then the 4 Roses single batch.
Mm-hmm.
That's like in like regular 4 Roses is like the stuff I keep in the camper. But like the single batch is like really smooth. And then this Elijah Craig small batch.
Wow.
And that's really tasty too. But this is like kind of smoky, like burny flavor more so than like the 4 Roses and Basil Hayden is really smooth. Whereas this has more of an edge to it. But yeah, so Manhattans are great. Yeah. And
well, I'm sorry, John, before you go further, you said a family. You say this is a family drink, or what does that mean?
My grandpa drank them, my dad drank them, I drank them. It's a lineage thing. You know what I mean? Like it's what was drank. I remember going out, my grandparents lived up in Superior, and they would go out to this little supper club restaurant like outside of town, which is awesome. And they'd go out there on Friday nights, and my grandpa would get a Manhattan, and he would give the cherries to my grandma. And so, like, that's what I remember growing up, and my dad's always drank them too. So, but like the thing about Manhattan is it's like straight up just all alcohol. Like, there's aside from the cherries, there's just no wash in there.
Throw a teeny bit of bitters in there to pretend it's a cocktail. And there you go.
Yeah, it's just like right. Yeah, and the ice, I guess, lets it breathe, which is important. But like the thing is, I always get in trouble with Manhattans. Is the first one makes me feel fantastic. The second one makes me just an idiot. Like that's where it's like, oh, I didn't need to do that one, like because I'm feeling so good on the first one, I have the second one, and then my wife says something to me, and I like verbally like stumble. I'm like, oh no, this is like this went too far too quickly. Yep.
I'm drunk.
It happened again. Yeah.
Right. So your love of bourbon basically comes from your family, is what you're saying.
Yeah, I mean, in bourbon, I mean, you can make you can make a Manhattan with brandy too if you want, which is more Wisconsin-y, that kind of thing. But yeah, so
then the answer to the question is your distilled spirit of choice is bourbon after beer.
I suppose, yeah, I like bourbon. Yeah, I like it. I don't like anything with rye in it. I know I don't like that flavor, and like there's a lot of like rye IPAs and different things like that. And I'm just like, why are you ruining it? Like, I get some people like those flavors, and you can get it locally, so that's kind of cool. But it's just like I don't like rye whiskey or anything like that. And tequila and I have a very bad relationship. So I don't do tequila anymore. And so yeah, I'm going for bourbon because I can at least sip on a bourbon if I like. I don't do shots. Like I gave up shots a long time ago because like I don't want to act like an idiot anymore. So I like getting like healthily buzzed and like just kind of plateauing for the whole night. Like I don't need to get I don't need to get like hammered drunk all the time anymore. So but it's unless it's like a Packer or Brewer game or something like that, then I get
What about the Bucks?
I like the Bucks. I like the Bucks too. Yeah, I haven't. The problem is they're not on like regular TV a lot, so they're harder to follow, right? I mean, now they are, I suppose, with the playoffs, but they're awesome. I'm a total like just Wisconsin sports fan in general.
Yeah. Well, we brought them up. Of all the series in the world, they needed to win the next one. Anyway, what, Doug?
I was going to ask, since bourbon is in play, and we've already discussed tequila. I'm a Scotch guy. How are you about Scotch?
So I don't know if I've ever had like really good Scotch.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
I think I can help you with that.
Yeah, like I've had like Johnny Walker Blue, like that's decent, right? Like
Johnny Walker Blue is expensive but not great.
Okay. Like I feel like every Scotch I've had has not been very smooth and been overly smoky.
Well, that depends on the region you get it from. I have some things that in post-production I will talk to you about with the Scotch.
Got it. Okay.
Cool.
I could talk for 2 hours about Scotch. So.
I haven't got into like Scotch and that, and I went through a phase where I really like Irish whiskey too, and even that's like I've kind of just like outgrown that. But
Irish whiskey can be good depending on what it is. Yeah.
But like it's just I like my Manhattans, so like that's where I'm at in life right now. And then
but you can do with certain scotches. You can do Manhattans with them that are definitely different flavor profiles, but really tasty.
Interesting. Well, that sounds interesting. I also though like upped my vermouth game on the Manhattans, but like I used to just get like the Martini and Rossi or whatever is cheap, and then my dad is like, no, like spend the more money on the nicer vermouth, and it changed the whole cocktail. So it does. It like vermouth matters. There you go.
Wow.
Also, can we for vermouth? Can we talk about the idea that Rick and Paige Dodora, because Rick cooks, talks about deglazing stuff with dry vermouth, and that shit has changed a lot of how I cook.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
That sounds great.
It's weird. You don't think of using like an alcohol to deglaze stuff when you're cooking, and it's awesome.
Doug, do you agree with this?
No. All right.
Licking the walls in a house fire. So I believe that's our friend Charlie. And what I want to say is I love when people describe alcohol and beer like that. Like I've heard beers are described as licking like a dirty tire. And I just want to know how we get that reference. How do we know?
I will tell you why I think people think that, because of the peat and the smoke elements.
Sure, that makes sense.
Because that will make it taste very smoky, and certain of them are a little abrasive at the lower end. So yeah, I get that.
Yeah. So, John, it's been fantastic having you.
Thanks for having me. It's been fun, guys.
We touched all the bases. I didn't really get to ask you if you and your lady use a top sheet or not, but maybe we'll save that for next time. Look at that.
Because that will be a long conversation.
Oh, you can just quick answer. Do you use a top sheet or not?
You talking about the sheet that like goes under your top blanket but above your?
Yes.
Yeah, we have a top sheet.
Right, and you use it, right?
Yeah, I don't like sleeping in like warm weather with nothing.
Like normal human beings. Okay, cool, great. So, John, anyway, Doug and I have gone. I don't know if you've seen the stream, but Doug and I have gone back and forth to the top sheet thing, and I'm sure. Yeah, see, look, fuck the top sheet. See, it always. So anyway, John.
Oh, Charlie, you're right on, man. Thank you.
Shut up, Charlie. So what? John, what were you do you want to talk about the beers you had real quick?
You want to tell us what you thought of the stuff you had?
What about the stuff I had?
Do you want to talk about the beers that you had before we let you go?
Yeah, I mean, like that Stockhouse Brewing is actually okay, so hit that up. Three Sheeps is also awesome. My wife and I like to go there because they are dog friendly. And their place is huge. That's up in Sheboygan.
Place is huge. It's great. Have you ever been up there for the anniversary?
No.
I was up there for the. Oh, we should meet up there for their anniversary.
One of my goals is Sheboygan does bratwurst days because like Johnsonville and Old Wisconsin brats are made in Sheboygan, and I am a big fan of sausage, so it's like I will absolutely go hit that up and drink some beer and eat a ton of brats. So
yeah, that might be something.
Next
their
time
events up there
they
is
have
amazing.
it. Yeah, but Three Sheeps is great. So
Three Sheeps is great.
But
Well,
I don't know what I'll do next yet. I don't know. I'll maybe I got so many choices. So
yeah,
you have a full beer fridge apparently. So
I got work to do.
right, and a couple one home brew on tap.
I got the People's Bach, and then I made a dark Mexican lager. So it's like a Vienna lager with corn in it, and I put a lime with wedge in it. It's great. So it's nice when it's 90 degrees outside.
Man, yeah, Mexican lager, underrated style.
Absolutely. And it's like there's actually not like a ton of guidance on like what it actually is. It's kind of just, it's like a sweeter, darker, I don't know. It's fine. It's great. It tastes good. So that's good.
Have you ever had the one from Indeed?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, they do good stuff.
Yeah, their Mexican lager is fantastic.
Yeah, it's really good.
So, John, it was nice having you.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Thank you for making this vastly more entertaining than it was if it was just me and Doug.
Okay.
Thank you for bringing knowledge and all that. So
yeah,
we'll see you again. Hopefully we can have hopefully you'll come back and grace us with your presence.
I'm game. All right, guys. Will you take care?
Yeah, you take care and stay safe, and we'll look for your next piece, buddy.
All right. That's good.
Cheers.
Cheers. See ya.
Man. Later.
Awesome. Cheers, John. So yes, Doug, let's do a wrap up and walk out of here.
Yeah. All right. So none of them are losers because all these were good. So I'm just trying to figure out order. It's not really. So these were tied. So this was the Pixie Dust Northeast IPA, the Pride Edition. Super good Northeast IPA, really tasty, really crushable, excellent for warmer weather. The year age Brig Mocha Stout was good. Lighter on the chocolate, which the chocolate was why I liked it so much fresh. The coffee is more pronounced, still really good. But I think the more Cowbell Eric's single cut was probably just slightly better than the other two. Really good beers for me tonight, man. How about you?
Something happened. Let's see here. So worst to first. Worst was
Quote unquote.
Green Queen double IPA. I liked it a lot, actually. Don't get me wrong, but it wasn't the best that I tasted. You're not gonna dig this one. I'll just say that. It's a big, chewy, double hoppy. Just send it to me, Doug, and move on with your life. It's cool.
I might have to. I can send you that with the Pride beer. It'd be good.
No, but all respects to Daniel Fisher. He's just the man, and I don't even know there's any way for us to repay him, but I'm gonna bring a bunch of cases to New York next year.
Well, I'm gonna bring a bunch of local shit when we do the New York City trip. So,
yeah, he's gonna. I don't know. I'm not sure where he lives. I think he lives in Hell's Kitchen.
Yep.
And so if you live in New York, you live in a small. People who live in New York live in smaller spaces than the rest of us.
Yep.
Let's just put it that way. But we're gonna pile his house up with some beer.
His wife could be like, "What the fuck are you doing with all this?"
Right. He's not going to be able to deal with it, actually. But anyway, he keeps sending us fantastic beers, especially during the pandemic. I can't say enough about him as a friend and him as a beer friend and all that. I love it, love it, love it. Love you, Daniel Fisher. Love you, buddy.
Yep.
But he sent me the Cold Box Tetris West Coast IPA. Fantastic. But the star of the show for me was this wonderful Kolsch. You can get an IPA anywhere. You can't get a really nice, crisp Kolsch everywhere. We started the show talking about, Doug saying, where can you get a Kolsch? I don't see any of them. It's not my favorite style, but I do like to have one. And yeah, this is a good one, and I just like it because that's it. So, before we go, though, let's see here. I'm not sure what's going on. Dude was a firefighter. I think. Wait. Oh, Charlie was a firefighter. So he's a former firefighter. I'm not sure why. Oh. Licking the walls of a house fire is. I was saying, how do you know that? So being a former firefighter, you would know that, Doug. There you go. So,
Charlie.
Yeah, sorry, I missed a bunch of the show. I was cereal shopping.
We know who
Manny.
Fucking Manny.
Wait, but that's not Manny. Manny is
no,
Manny,
that was Manny. It was in one of our groups, so yeah.
But his name showed up in another place. Whatever, I don't know.
No, somebody said something to Manny in a different feed, so yeah.
Hell's Kitchen just moved into a new place. That's, I guess, Daniel. I thought he used to show up here. I don't know what the hell. Well, that's excellent. Yeah. Firefighter PSC. Yeah. So anyway, Doug, next week we have 2 weeks of black brewers coming up. How the did we do that? Actually, kind of by accident.
Yeah. Well, yeah. This next week is you, and then the next week after that, I was like, you should book those dudes. When you had them on Badger Beer Hour. And you're like, yeah. And then you booked them. I'm like, fucking awesome. Let's go.
Right. Oh yeah. Now you're showing up, Daniel.
Yes.
But yeah, so Mac from Mac Brewing, Philly's own. If you guys, sorry, we're gonna Philly out. Mac is from where I was born in Philly, West Philly. So we are gonna Philly out. And he's going to bring a brew pub to West Philly. West Philly is a complicated place for me, Doug. It's where I'm from. So, sometimes you want to have is the homage the word? Sometimes you have a love of the place that you came from, or you want to have a love. But Philly is such a complicated place that, like, especially where we lived, it's kind of hard to love that. Mm-hmm. Mac and his sister, who is also on our schedule, but later in the year, they really bring that back to me. Like, they bring the fact that they love Philly so much that they bring it to me. And I'm just like, I think I should love my place where I'm from more. It's this complicated history and all kinds of shit. So we're going to get into that next week. You better do some Philly research, motherfucker. But anyway.
Well, I have a question before we go. Were you West Philadelphia born and raised?
In the playground is where I spent some of my days. But it was more in the street, running around like a crazy kid. But yeah.
And now we're going to get flagged for copyright infringement. It'll be great.
Yes, and my mother went to school with Will Smith. These are facts. She says she didn't know him like that, but they were at the same school at the same time. So there is that. And on that note, we want to thank cue up. Right. Yes, we're gonna do. Yes, the Fresh Prince song will come up. Thank you, Doug Ziegler, for that.
Right. Hey, I can't let that shit slide. It has to come out.
Yes, and we want to thank you guys again for your support, your comments, your questions. Again, if y'all weren't commenting or questioning, Doug and I would just do this.
Yelling into the void.
Well, we would just record this and then just put it out.
Yep.
Like,
it'd be a podcast instead of a show.
Right. Instead of a show or live where you guys can heckle us during the time, which you love, which you do all the time, especially JHG. Thank you, JHG, for the heckling. Manny heckles us. So again, we want to thank you for your support.
Manny's best.
Yes, Manny is the best. Man, we found out last week that shit was I still can't get over him.
Anybody show up and just like, here is my kingdom.
Right. Then he proceeds to drink a cereal beer, put a cereal beer in cereal, and literally ate all that right in front of us.
Yeah, and he had he put cereal in a thing and put beer. That's some 22-year-old I'm hungover shit that he pulled on our show. That was great.
It has to be one of the most iconic events that have ever happened on the stream.
Man, that's because we've had some really fucking
crazy
Roberto
and the changes with the hats, and I mean, we've had Ariana and her wonderful rants that
Oh, and the
everybody
Pressburys,
continues to tell us.
yeah, and having the Pressburys on, that shit was nuts.
Remember Afro Beer Chick and Aaron Govea?
Oh, speaking of Aaron Govea, we're gonna be having him on fairly soon.
Yeah. And this guy is an open book, and on top of that, there's so much to talk about. He is so I can't listen. It's a private group, but when he put it in the dad blogger,
that shit was like, what are you doing?
So yes, Aaron Govea and MJ.
Because it was a private group, we should not really divulge more of that. But yeah,
no, we can't. Sorry, but if you're in there, you know what we're talking about. But maybe Aaron will talk about it out there, but we'll see. He's an open book. He says that ask him anything, and then MJ is going to be there too because they're writing a book together. So it's going to be fantastic. Again, we got fantastic people coming up. We have great support. Lauren, Jonathan, love all you guys. We are headed out. You guys have a great weekend. You stay safe and get out. It's bad that I'm the person who still hasn't gone out anywhere, telling people to get out. Is that what do you call that? Hypocritical, Doug? I'm doing it soon. Just relax. I'll get there, but I'm just a little bit slower than everybody else. But that ain't anything new either, by the way.
No.
I'm a little bit slower than all of y'all. So cheers, Doug. Love you. See you next week.
Love you too. See you next week.
Mac Brewing.